Hi, I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of Mochakk. We have a fully arranged track here using Ableton only plus Serum and PML samples and sounds, modeled after a track called Express Yourself Diplo, and it's the Mochakk remix, and we have sort of reverse engineered the style to learn thinking behind the style. And let's quickly have an analysis of the arrangement here. Intro. That's basically our drum loop. You can already hear a bit of swing in there, and then we bring in the bass after 8 bars. So first mini break after 16 bars or half a minute. This is like the Spotify version. If you want to do this for the club, you need a longer intro, or well, at least that's usually how it's done. But this is more like the short version here. It's a 3-minute 40 track. And so at 17 bars, we are already in our first break and sort of building that thing up and rising up. So delays on the vocal, risers and noise effects that are moving up, and pitch is also moving up in some leads. Yeah, and then we have this main drop here, which is kind of the entire idea of the song. Very clean, very straightforward, super groovy, kind of nice, you know, it's very minimalistic, but it just works, like techie, housey. And then at the end of the day, we're just copying sort of what happened here, stretching it out a bit longer over this break part and that build up. So this part ends up being like this much longer here, and then you double this little part here, and then you have the second drop, and that gets extended a bit longer, and then we are already going into the outro. So very straightforward arrangement here. This is nothing crazy. All the elements are in place. As soon as you have the drop, and as soon as you know how to sort of build up tension in the break parts. Now you can do the same thing one more time. I'll have a full playback at the end of the video, but just skimming through this here quickly. Yeah, then drop continues. And then hi-hats come in to bring more drive. And then we go into our outro, where stuff gets is winding down. Yeah, so that's the arrangement overview. Let's quickly listen to the groups. Single items here, that's the drum group. So that's what's going on there. In the build-up, it sounds like this. These nice little playful percussion rolls. And then we have our bass. This one is kind of high passed, and then we have these two layered sub and mid basses. Those little jumps. And the instruments part sounds like this. So you can already notice how delayed perception is sort of a main element here. Even if this one is set in notes, it's filtered, so it seems to be a delay. Like getting quieter and everything. And then we have this effects group here, which basically plays in the break parts. Noises and then lifting up a bit. And then we have the vocals group, which sounds delay in the break part. And in our drop part, we have this one at the beginning, this weird robot type thing. And then this other thing here serves kind of like an Atmo or a drone, but it's very choppy, and that's also important for this style here. Don't make it too ambient, you know, not too many drones, not too many sort of spheric sounds or pads in the background. You want this choppy so it grooves. Yeah, so this is the group overview. Who's Mochakk? He's a Brazilian tech house producer. He has this style where he's blending tech house, techno, and some Brazilian rhythms here and there. Has a very distinctive sound, which took him to major festivals like Coachella, at stages like Circo Loco, owns his label Mochakk, and has done collabs with Diplo, Seth Troxler, and so on. So definitely on the rise. And by the way, you can find this project file in our new house pack here, linked in the description as well. And this one is called What? It's a fully arranged track only using Ableton stock effects and instruments plus Serum. And you have 4 other tracks in there as well. And let's go through the elements here one by one, and starting with the drop part of the main drop, where we have, you know, kick. A bit of a dirty one here with some information in the mid frequencies. But we rolled off some of that already. It's not the cleanest kick, but it's a short one, which is important here. You want these snappy elements. Later it gets automated here a bit when we go into the break parts. And now we combine that one with a snappy clap. We listen to the clap in solo quickly. It's a bunch of claps layered, but it's also important. This thing is short and it doesn't really have any reverb or delay. Let's quickly, you know, we can double check that, because we have those send and return channels here, where we have a reverb of 3 seconds and we have an echo 3x3 one, but those are not getting anything sent into from the clap here, and also not from the drums group. Later, these two go into the sends group, get sidechained, and then they go into the master, which looks like this. But the bottom line here is we want our kick and clap snappy short. So we have a lot of room for our bass groove to sit in between them. You know, you need this space in between to put interesting, groovy information. That's why we want to keep them short. And what are we putting in between here? First of all, well, maybe that's not the best one to start with, but let's look at this percussion loop thing here. What is this doing? So this one is already super necessary for the groove here, and you can see it's sitting somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So it's not really on bar, on grid, or quantized or anything. This thing is just like a little bit off, a little bit late, but super short. And that's how, and a very high frequent sound. Let's listen again. So this thing is just late. But that's how you sort of create this groove, create this swingy feeling. And let's combine that with this, what we call tambourine here. Cut to very high frequencies here and moved around your ears with an auto pan from left to right. So you have movement in there. And this one is already playing the pattern that we are also going to be playing with a bunch of other elements. We're coming back to that in a minute, but it's sort of a bit what's going on with the bass and what's later going on with an element that goes through redux. And on top of that, we have this sound sitting. So closed hi-hat, but again, if we are setting this to 16th notes, you can see this one here is super late, this one here is super late. So there's definitely something going on, but we have to account for the fade in also being sort of slow on this sound. So it's almost like this element that's already being late is sort of, you know, you could argue that this one is sort of falling or you know, pre-emphasizing the next hit here at 73.3. So let's play that together with the kick to see what it sounds like, just these two. And as it's often the case, if you play this stuff solo without the other elements, it sounds almost off. But, you know, it always needs to be listened to combined with everything. That's also in mixing, but it's also important for the groove. What do we have here? Closed hi-hat, that's a simple one. So this is basically our driving rhythm off hi-hat. It's a closed one, closed hi-hat. This one is making sure you're not getting lost. So the listener is not getting lost in, oh, what's going on here with the groove. So this one is helping you understand what's happening. And if we are combining it with all the other elements here, and you see everything has its own place. So, you know, this one is playing here, then we go there, then this one is coming in, and then here we're occupying that space. These, you could argue, are sitting on top of one another, and then again, we have this one here and then the next one occupying that space. So you want to keep it clean and have clear transients. So every element has its own position. And then we have this one here as well. Let's quickly listen to it in solo. So this one is playing in the 1-4-4 in the last position, also again late, and in the second position of the first beat, and there it's also late. And now you could ask, okay, so where do you want to put it? And now we are reverse engineering an existing track here. So we are trying to listen to where they put it and then just set it right there. But if you're working from start to finish with a new track, you would pick up a groove that sort of fits the vibe that you're looking for, or swing, and apply that to your track, and then look for the right timing, look how much you want to quantize it and how much you want to apply it globally. And then you're basically answering the question, how late is this going to play in the second position? But here in this case, we're playing it here, and let's sort of combine these elements that we had so far and listen to them all together here with kick and clap. And we're also taking this one to the right in the panning and this one here to the left in the panning. So, you know, we also have our stereo spectrum covered a bit. So this one here is playing more to the right. This one is playing more to the left, and they're sort of answering each other as well. whereas your clap is sitting in the middle, your kick is sitting in the middle usually, and your closed hi-hat in this case is also sitting in the middle. Okay, and later when we want to add in a bit more drive, we are putting in this open hi-hat also in the third position, and we are just layering that on top. And again, everything here is super dry. There's not much reverb going on here. This is not melodic house. This is not trance or something. This is more tacky, straight groove, straight dance floor. You can see like our reverb return channel here is not firing anything. You just want this super clean drum groove. And now let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the break parts here. We have a bit of a snare going up over time. But also with a short decay time, as you can see here. And then you have these little glitches in there. This is purposefully like, to make it sound interesting, sometimes it helps to make it sound wrong, you know, almost. Also this one here, if you listen to that one. Also different velocities applied. So again, a short snare here as well, and then, you know, just an auto filter to filter it in and out over time here in the arrangement. If we are, you know, activating that, we can quickly see how it comes in and how the other one later removes the low end. So to give this fade to gray type effect right in front of the drop. And then later this conga also comes in. You know, getting pitched up over time or transposed, and then we are doing this one more time, and this goes together with this lead which does the same movement. So this one is sort of providing the ploppy attack or transient, and here later we have the width riser on top of it, and this one is actually getting a little bit of reverb, so this gets sent here into getting a bit more room. Okay, and then just in between we have these percussion rolls that are also nice and a bit wonky. You know, super fast notes, 32s, and and so this is 32 times 4, so 128ths. Yeah, just little wonky elements here, and then we have the crash roll in the beginning of the break, or more like a cymbal. Again, we are sort of faking a delay by just filtering and fading it out. And then later, here we have one big hit, and that's it. So this is our drums group. Let's move over to the bass line, which is interesting as well. So we have a sub layer. Let's listen to that one first, solo. You have these little jumps in there. And also sometimes the second or the fourth position, but mostly the second one in one beat. So that's the 3-2-2 is late. Again, to work nicely together with the groove. So what's the sound? Let's quickly take a look. We have basic shapes, sine wave in oscillator A, -2 octaves. We have the sub oscillator sine wave an octave higher, and we have this MB saw wavetable position moved up here, so it looks more or less like this. So that's the deep one. You need headphones or good speakers to even hear that. And very short envelope here. This one, decay down, sustain down, 200 milliseconds, 50 milliseconds. This one occupying an octave higher. Envelope 2 going into the filter here, also very short decay time and harsh 24 decibels per octave filter. And now this one adds in a bit of info on top. So we have some information in that range as well. And then just an EQ here emphasizing on 176, 77, something like that. So, and then it's heavily ducked, where we use this one sort of like an LFO tool to really shape how we want to position it. And the next one on top is this bass mid layer, which now plays fifths. And what's going on in sound here? So we are rolling off all the low end. We are having that one occupied by the bass sub layer. And now we can mess around in the mid and higher frequencies, but we're still ducking that pretty harshly. And then widen it with the utility width here. But what is the sound source? We have sine wave, and saw wave and sub oscillator, nothing in the noise, and everything goes into a 18 decibels per octave filter. And it's still pretty short in the decay time for both envelopes, so it's not longer than our sub bass. And what's noticeable here is that we are playing this fifth higher or 7 semitones to achieve this housey effect. Okay, so this is our sound. Let's play that together with the drums group. And there's your track. You need a bit more high information now in the frequency range, but you're basically done with the setup. Okay, quickly checking this one. So this is what we are playing in the break part, and these are the notes again. It's almost the same pattern, but we're, going down to A. And this is like proper ducking here. That's why it sounds so heavily sidechained. It's again pretty much the same setup here. We have sine waves and something like a saw rounded to square wave here playing these fifths higher. But then again here pretty much the similar setup, and here similar setup, and here similar setup. So nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just moved a bit up higher. So overall very similar setup, maybe a bit less wide. Then we're giving this a bit more width here. And this a bit more lower information. But we are not playing the sub in the break parts here. So quickly listen to it in context. Okay, so going over to the instruments group, what is going on in our drop? So we have Pluck 1, and what is it doing? So we're automating the mod wheel down, and the mod wheel itself is controlling the filter frequency in the effects section. So this cutoff is coming down. And that's how we sort of trick you into thinking this is an actual delay, which it isn't. It's playing through all the time. And you can also see these are mostly, one voice, maybe two voices here. But for the most part, we're not trying to make this one to beef this up too much. This is not trance. This is not EDM in the sense of progressive house. this is groovy stuff that's to the point, that's trying to be, you know, narrow and more mono-ish and just straight to the point dancey. So electro pulse wave and then another pulse wave here, and again pretty short envelopes and nothing too crazy going on. We're controlling filter cutoff with envelope number 2 here, also super short. And LFO1 controls the master tune slightly. So this one, but ever so slightly, this one is just hardly applied to sort of have it play a bit wonky. So it's a bit unstable in the pitch, but we are emphasizing on this instability with the second one. This one has constant pitch movement here. It's just one saw wave, and what's happening, if you look at the matrix, you can see LFO, so this one is controlling the fine and the coarse pitch. Well, no, actually the second one, this one is controlling the coarse pitch, this one is controlling the fine pitch. Here in fine and coarse in oscillator A. So we have the same MIDI pattern on the 5th here. So D is our root note, A is our 5th, and oh look, and forgot to mention that we have this one running a little bit out of control because it's just getting late. The second one is just getting late. That's a nice effect. It's makes it sound, it's more imperfection that makes it sound sort of more groovy. It's kind of cool. And our next element is here, this percussion thing. So that's basically a percussive sample from the Deep Premium Volume 2 sample pack, and it's getting fade in, fade out. We are using this part rolling off low end. Let's actually turn them off quickly to hear what the sound source sounded like. Oh man, there's so much stuff. Forgot about that. So when your grumpy neighbor doesn't like the techno. So roll off low end. Bit of room. Emphasizing on the mids. Emphasizing more. Now we need redux. Yeah, and that's basically the sound. Now we can just tweak it a bit, you know, bit more to the left. Auto panning around your ears. So we have width. A lot of the other elements are more static in the panorama. Bit of delay. Nice. And now we have a dock. Because we introduced these delays, it needs to dock again when our kick's playing. And just emphasizing a bit on the stereo high information here. So this is going well together with our drums. And instruments. Okay, other elements in this instruments group are this riser, which goes a bit together with this conga from before. And what's going on in the sound? We have saw wave, 10 voices. I'm just soloing this one. Yeah, very straightforward setup here. Nothing crazy going on. We're just sort of pitching the pitch bend up over time with this automation here, and the phaser is just doing its thing on top. And we're just doing it a second time here, so why not? Bringing that up again 1 octave. And there we go. And what else do we have? We talked about the plucks. We didn't talk about the pads. So in the break, we also have these pads. Which are slowly pitching their way up for tension. And you achieve this by putting the mono on, putting the legato on, and then putting that portamento to all the way up. So that one usually starts here, but we have this one all the way up to, like, it takes it like 2.5 seconds to sort of go to the next note, to really go into the next one. And we are playing these wide saw waves here. 8 voices, 14 voices, making them sound fat. This one a bit fine pitched up, this one as well. So there's a bit of movement here in the fine pitch of oscillator B with LFO1. So you've seen this before, just to have that thing a bit more wonky. And we're basically working our way up from the root note towards the 5th. And on top of that, we play this other one, more stable note, which is the 5th. So that's where this is starting on the root note and ending, you know, a semitone below the 5th, and the 5th at some point already starts introducing the tension on top as well. So this goes... It's also a bit scary. But this is how you sort of create this tension. Okay, and let's quickly take a look at the effects group. Nothing fancy going on here. Noise uplifter. We're just taking a Serum instance, automating the mod wheel with alpha noise, and bringing this one up in frequency. In the general cutoff, a bit of the resonance, and the EQ volumes also get controlled. So let's take a look. You know, here it opens up, so we're cleaning up with the mod wheel. So first we're moving slightly, and later we are emphasizing more on the high frequencies. So carving that out, that's why you don't see any other effects here in the back. This one is already applied in the Serum controls. Yeah, a more low noise effect, similar setup, and here. That's kind of cool. Sort of uses an LFO to control the panning. Noise pan controlled, and the mod wheel controls the filter. This is what's going up. Get this helicopter type effect, which is very useful. Kind of acts like a similar to a snare. And then behind everything we have this ambience thing, which is basically a noise crackle sample in the break parts. And all these 3 or 4 combined so funny sometimes how if you listen to elements of a track in solo, you don't really feel like that would blend in nicely with everything else, but when you hear the mix, it just works. It's really why you can essentially only judge elements in the mix and not by playing them solo. That's a mistake I made in the first years of production a lot. Wasted so much time by tweaking stuff in solo. Anyways, going over to the vocals group. Okay, so we have this shout. It's just endlessly copied every three. What is this? So this is like counter-rhythmical in a sense. Against the 4 to the floor, we are going every 3 parts of one beat. And now what we are doing here is we're rolling off some low information and making sure it's not too high frequent up there. And what is really interesting about this setup, if I'm quickly taking this one off, and that's just our reverb. And where this gets interesting is here, where we use these spectral resonators to introduce more harmonic information. Yeah, you know, this one fades up or moves the wet in. So we have this one. And so here set to chorus mode and has 2 voices, unison amount of 7%. So it's always nice to mess around with these to see what you can come up with. And then afterwards we have this delay, EQ cleaning up, overdrive, emphasize. Oh yeah, that one also moves up, so it gets a bit more gnarly. So the track doesn't really have a lot of elements, but we are emphasizing really on the ones that we are using. So a lot of automation going on here. You basically have one drum loop as this track, and then you sort of, in order to keep it interesting for 3-4 minutes, you need to play around with these manipulative audio effects where we are moving around in the spectrum, moving around in time with delays, and moving around in intensity with overdrive. And that's how this can then be made interesting. It's completely different from pop music. So the other element here is, yeah, a very cool bounced out audio of a bunch of glitchy effects. That works nicely. And here, this kind of robot vox effect. It's basically one, you know, somebody saying something and then 2 delays thrown on top of it. And then really put the wet up. And then behind that, but this one is nice because we can use that in a whole bunch of parts here and also at the beginning of any build up or even the drops. So it also helps keeping things simple and interesting. It doesn't have to be too much on grid if everything else already grooves. And then the last element here is this paddy thing, or choppy. Basically a choppy Atmo. Which sort of built us the chord here. or even more noticeable towards the back here. It is very cool because it fills out the frequency range without messing it up, without, you know, bloating this clean sound. It's nice because it has these transients already very visible, and you can also it's also set to beats mode here and to preserve transients. And you, if it's too much, you can always go and turn this down a bit by setting it to 1 arrow. It's also something you can automate or record. Okay, setting it back. So, all right, so these are the main elements. Super cool style in my opinion. Let's quickly sum up what's going on here. It's really important to have snappy, short drum elements, kicks and claps to leave room for everything that can create groove and swing in between. Kick, clean, short, clap as well, like this. By making them short and snappy, we leave a lot of room in between to put in elements that groove, or silence that also helps achieve this swingy groove. Sometimes music also gets created by what's not playing, by things that are not playing. So the length of these elements really matters, and also the kind of off positioning here and there. And then later our open hi-hat here brings in the drive. Super dry, no real reverb on this, no delays on this. This is just a very dry drum beat, very straightforward, allowing for a lot of stuff that can be built around now. And then you have this bass line, the layered bass line, very straightforward. It's also noticeable how important these pauses are to make this thing groove a bit more nicely. And then the occasional, you know, double note or late positioning of an element like this one here, just late to the show, that really helps you groove. So really, don't forget to put in breaks and pauses in your MIDI patterns. That makes stuff more interesting. Now in the plucks that are coming in on top, one of the takeaways is we have one clean one and the other one is pitchy around it. Bit wonky keeps it interesting. And also we almost are not playing anything that you can sort of identify as a pad. The only thing that comes close to is this sort of transient focused vocal. And there's our track, very minimalistic, and it already works. And now we're just throwing on top these reduxed elements. And there's your beat already. And now how you keep the arrangement interesting over time has a bunch of ingredients. You pitch rise, obviously, as almost always in electronic music. So you go up. At the same time, you're doing these fade to grays, which I think we can see in the snare rolls here. We are just taking out low frequencies over time towards the end of the build-up pattern. opening it up more. And then also in this vocal shout here, we are introducing more delays, and we are bringing up spectral resonators to sort of move things in frequency, in harmonic patterns, and over time. Yeah, and then the delays are sort of tailing off into the drop parts. Yeah, and our arrangement is pretty straightforward. Intro and bass. First break already. And then build up. Risers, lifters up, first drop after a minute. Then some plucks after the second round. And now we repeat that. And then we have the outro. And that's very straightforward, pretty simple. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough session. Feel free to check out the link in the description to this house pack where this project file is coming from. What is called, it's a fully arranged track as an Ableton project together with 5 other ones. So 5 fully arranged tracks as Ableton project files together with this one we just listened to. And also a full-blown sample pack with loops and one-shots for house or also techie and piano house types production. And 70 plus Serum presets coming with MIDIs and MP3 preview, so you can quickly check how is this supposed to sound like. And also free bonus vocals in that pack as well. Check out the link in the description to that pack. Also, if you want tech house vocals, check out the links in the description as well. I'm also putting a link in the description to the Start to Finish Tech House Academy, where you can learn producing tech house from scratch, and to our Deep Premium Drums series, sample pack series. And if you want it all, I'm also dropping a link to the Everything bundle in the description as well. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll talk to you again soon, and let's have a full playback.